Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind, the reunion. Let's watch.
No, I know.
Days earlier, I felt the same way.
I took a back seat. I regret it. And my pride definitely like got in the way.
Shaina, God, fuck.
I know, I'm really sorry.
I forgot how viscerally frustrated Shane was when Shaina admitted this. I forgot all about that. I mean, he is, very frustrated. Like, oh, why? Which, because at this time, he was with Natalie, maybe even have proposed already. Then we see Shane's physical reaction to this. I wonder what again, hard on sleeve. He's clearly upset and cringing at himself, I think. Let's see what he says.
How did it feel watching that on TV for the first time?
I definitely felt like betrayed by both Shane and Shaina, quite honestly. The fact Shane said, if, you told me 2 days earlier, it could have been, potentially different.
I mean, I get what Natalie's saying. It feels like betrayal because no one was really honest with her. Shane wasn't honest with Natalie, and Shaina, I think, wasn't either. So, yeah. But at the same time, that's the show that sometimes you have feelings for more than one person. But yeah, I get that.
By the last set of days, he assured me it was just going to be me. It was only me. So seeing that there could have been a change if he explored another connection was really hard. But I think with you, Shaina, what you had told me was you walked in saying you were supportive of our relationship and you used to like him, and that was it. Mm-hmm. So I just think...
Interesting. So I don't think they showed us that. And Natalie is saying that, at least I don't remember, Shaina said, I support your relationship. I used to have a thing with Shane, but that's over now. Which I suppose Shaina could still kind of claim, maybe. But I think in that meeting with Shane, she was clearly trying to get with him. Plus, in the beach scene, she literally said that the relationship between Shane and Natalie was a joke and fake. So... yeah, clearly Shaina wasn't upfront with Natalie about how she felt.
Seeing that and feeling like you were dishonest was, really tough.
I'm sorry for that. No, I am.
When you saw it for the first time,
Yeah.
were you surprised?
So kudos to Shaina for, I'm sorry for that. I truly am. I feel like there's probably more that could have been said there from Shaina. But in terms of the ways in which people respond to those kinds of accusations, it's definitely on the good end of the spectrum. But, the way she responded, you wonder if she's like, well, there's a lot of buts to that. But I'm just not going to say it because I know I'm being filmed. I don't know.
And you literally get punched right in the face.
Yeah.
Okay. Literally, I blacked out when it happened and everything that went down. Okay. I'm getting crucified for the situation. I could have handled it definitely different, but no one knows what it feels like going in there. And it's my whole mindset was focusing on proposing to Natalie the whole time.
Okay, I think that's interesting. I think we're learning about what his psyche is like. I think he's saying he says a lot of things. He has a very kind of frantic way of expressing himself. But he's saying he's being crucified. I think in this moment, he feels like he's being crucified. That's an extreme description of just pointing out what happened, right? And it's a reality TV show. It's the reunion. They're going to bring up these key moments. Did you not think that was going to get brought up? Why do you think of it as being, there's a lot of different ways he could respond. He could say something like, yeah, I mean, I don't understand why he just doesn't say, I was confused. And he said earlier, I shouldn't have said to Natalie that we were in a committed boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. I shouldn't have done that because looking back and at the time I kind of knew this, that I wasn't really fully decided about who to be with yet. And I shouldn't have done that. And I think in that clip we just saw, it's further evidence that I was really on the fence between Natalie and Shaina. And I just didn't know. We'd only been in the pods for 5 days, 6 days by that point. I didn't know who to be. I was just confused. And everything was on the line because I'm like, well, what if I make the wrong, like he could say something like that. That's not what he's saying. What he's saying is I'm being crucified. Let's rewind.
And you literally get punched right in the face.
Yeah.
Okay. Like literally, like I blacked out when it happened and everything that went down. Okay. Like I'm getting crucified for the situation. I could have handled it definitely different, but like no one knows what it feels like going in there. And it's like, my whole mindset was focusing on proposing to Natalie.
Right. So you're saying that his whole mindset was Natalie, and then all of a sudden he's expecting Natalie to be in the room, and all of a sudden he gets the switcheroo, and it's Shaina, and now she is blindsiding me with this thing like she wants me. So I don't know, but I'm going to take a guess and say that Shane, what do I say? He might not have a lot of experience with situations like this where he has to, So let me just say this. For a lot of us, when we're growing up, we're longing, right? We're longing for someone to like us. We want someone to like us. And we're like, please love us. Please like us. I'm going to ask this person out. I'm going to text this person. I'm going to swipe right. I wonder, I hope this works out. Or are they going to like me? Are they going to like me? And a lot of us also do not have the experience of how to navigate when someone likes us, but we're not into them. For some of us, that's a rare, if not a situation that's never happened for some people. And I don't know about Shane, but the way he presents, it's possible that that's true, that he's always been the pursuer. He's never been the rejecter. Or he has traumas around rejecting, which people can have. They can actually have traumas around breaking up with people or saying no to people because then they get attacked or something happens. They feel terrible on the inside. And so I think what he's expressing right now is he's into Natalie. He gets in the room. Shane is there. Oh, I don't want to talk to her. She's into me. And then he gets confused. And he's used to, and he's even kind of said this, that when someone likes him, it really makes him feel good. And then he falls in love with that person because it's like, oh my God, she likes me, which implies that not a lot of people express that to him in his life. And so then Shane is there and he's like, oh no, why did you do this? And, if we pulled him out of the room, we'd be like, reset, what's going on? Well, I'm into Natalie. And I've decided I don't want to be with Shaina. Well, why are you so, I don't know, she likes me and I don't know what to say. And I know maybe I could be with her, kind of a people pleaser situation. So I think that's what he's saying.
And we haven't talked for days. I'm like, I'm not mad about the situation, but it's like, it was my day with Natalie. And I was upset about the fact that it just fucked with my mind a little bit, and that's what it was about. And I obviously was very dramatic. That's just who I am. But
one, either he is rewriting history or he's not really aware, because that's not the way I would describe it. It sounded like he was telling Shaina, you should have told me earlier because then I would have gone with you. I mean, that's kind of what was implied in all of his reactivity. But he's claiming that it was just like a confusion there. So there's that possibility that he's just like ashamed of being outed, or maybe in denial of being attracted to Shaina, because he's I think at this point maybe still trying to get together with Natalie. By the way, I just saw a YouTube interview with Natalie saying that after the show, her and Shane tried to work it out. They dated and still had problems, and then just decided to call it off completely. So her and Shane are not together, at least as of today, which is early March. This will be posted later because it takes a while for them all to come out. But anyway, the other possibility is that he didn't want to be with Shaina, but in the room, he feels so bad. Who knows? But there's a potential reality. It doesn't seem to fit, but it could be that for Shane, he was definitely, because that's what he's saying. He's like, I'm definitely sure about Natalie. And then she walks in, and then she's saying I'm getting this very clear impression that she wants to be with me. And I'm a people pleaser. I'm not used to saying no to people. And so the truth was, I just wanted to say to Shaina, like, I'm not into you. Sorry. But I felt so bad and guilty for letting someone down that I said some things like, oh, you should have told me earlier because then maybe things would have been different. So anyway, let's move on. Is that what, I don't know. Tell me what you think is going on here.
Can we talk about the fact that why was that meeting even a thing? And why did that even happen?
I wish I knew. I would be able to.
Whose
tell you
idea
that.
was that?
We're totally.
Speaking
Yeah, we're
of
totally
Kyle,
looking to-
since
Yeah,
you
let's
want to
bring you
be
into
in
the
the
mix.
conversation,
Yeah,
there
I'm
was
pretty
one
sure
more person
there was
involved
a
in
moment.
all of this. So we are going to take a look.
Okay, so Kyle and Shake are saying, why did that meeting? I think Kyle and Shake are criticizing the producers in this moment, saying, why were y'all throwing Shaina back into the mix with Shane? I mean, according to Shane, he hadn't spoken with Shaina for days, which is interesting. It'd be interesting to really know the timeline there, because the way that they edited it seems like it's just all compressed. But anyway, so I think they're calling that out, and that is interesting. But, you can make the argument that Shaina was, in fact, very much so, that Shaina really wanted to talk to Shane and was very interested in trying to pull Shane away from Natalie at that point, and probably was even pushing for that conversation. But who knows?
To Shaina's face when you finally saw that video. And what did you think was happening on the other side of that wall when you were actually making your proposal?
I felt like she could have said no. I didn't sense the hesitation in the moment, but looking back, she seemed very hesitant.
Yeah, I'll say, which was interesting, because if you're just going off of the verbal, there was very little indication of ambivalence. But when you watch her body language, I mean, that to me looked like body language, oh my God, no, and verbal yes, which is, when we, at the time, we hadn't had more data about Shaina. Looking back, I'm not really sure what that tells us. I remember thinking this at the time, that I think Shaina felt bad for Kyle. I think that her reaction was, oh my God, oh no, oh no, oh no, what do I do, what do I do, what do I do? I don't want to hurt his feelings, I don't want to hurt his feelings. And then, why did she say yes then, though? Why did she say yes? Well, she's talked about how she was in an abusive relationship in the past, and we don't know, it's just a word. We don't know what that entailed, but she also talked about not drawing boundaries. So even though Shaina comes across as a very tough person, there's a possibility that she has some wounds around, issues that make her in the moment, and moments like that, to put herself aside and to just say yes when she doesn't want to say yes. It certainly looked like that, right?
Well,
You get it.
but either way, like,
do it.
I didn't understand the point of the meeting.
Okay.
So I thought it was like, I thought you just needed some loose ends tied up, but I didn't think that it was literally asking him, like, this is your last chance.
No, not at
And
all.
you
That
used,
wasn't my
you
intention.
leveraged,
Okay, right. I'm remembering the chronology. So Kyle proposes, she body language no, verbal yes. After that, she goes to Shane and says, last chance, because if you want to be with me, now you can be with me, even though I'm already engaged. Yeah, I remember that. That's pretty awful. And according to Shaina, she's like, no, I wasn't giving Shane a last chance. I mean, it certainly looked that way, right? I think it was explicit in that conversation that Shaina was like, it wasn't just like a closure meeting with Shane. I think it was a last chance meeting, right? So now Shane is saying it wasn't?
and ask you to marry him instead of Natalie.
Are you speaking for me? Are you telling me how I felt? I'm so confused.
No,
I told you what happened. So the fact that
So
you're playing
why?
this
So
like
wait, why did
face
you want
is
the
so-
meeting?
What?
Why did you want the meeting with Shane?
It honestly, looking back on it, I should have said no right away to you.
Right.
100%.
So, in the interview with Natalie, and who knows what's really happening behind the scenes, but we're piecing together data points, and we don't know if any of it's true. But in that interview with Natalie, where I think it was just a couple days ago, maybe even today, that the interview happened, and Natalie was saying that her and Shane tried to work it out. It didn't work out, and so they're not together anymore. Natalie was also saying that after the beach scene, during the beach scene, Natalie was like, she didn't even know at that point that Shane and Natalie, or that Shane and Shaina were a thing. Natalie was like, I think they're just two people talking. She didn't know until she watched the show, the past couple of weeks, where we're like, oh, Shaina and Shane had a real thing there. And then after, so let's walk ourselves through the data points. So then, according to Shaina and Natalie, Shaina called Natalie before the beach scene saying, hey, if you break up with with Shane, I can set you up with someone. And Natalie's like, why would you say that? It's interesting how mature Natalie can be in situations like that, because, a lot of people would get really reactive, similar to when Shane sits down, what are you wearing? Natalie, she just stops. I wish a lot of people would do that more often. Just like take a beat and just, wait and see like what's happening right now. And Natalie does that pretty well. So anyway, she did that with her on the phone, and then she tells Shane confronts Shaina about it. It's like, did you tell Natalie that you were going to set her up with someone? And Shayna's like, well, that's interesting that Shaina would say that. Like, what did she, is she insecure or something? And then in that same conversation, Shaina both denies it kind of, and then eventually says, yeah, sure, I said that. So in that instance, another data point of denial when caught, I suppose. And then according to Natalie, who knows if it's true, she saw the scene, or no, before the show aired, Shane goes to Natalie and says to Natalie, I just had a conversation with Shaina, and she said these things. She said our relationship was fake, why was... And then Natalie, as a courtesy, calls Shaina and says, did you say those things? Because, Shane's telling me that you said our relationship was fake and all these things. Did you really say those things? And then Shaina said, no, I did, according to Natalie. I did not say those things. Natalie proceeds to watch the show months later and says she absolutely said those things, and she lied to me about it afterwards. So it's just more data around, what do we call this? Just like self-destructive lying, because it's all in the film. Like it's there. So at least we're seeing a pattern of whatever we want to call that.
I did feel
No
very...
one put a gun to your head to do anything.
Yeah, but no, 100%. I actually do take full ownership. I could have avoided a whole bunch of drama and mess.
Yeah.
100%. And I'm owning that.
So she's done this a number of times on the show. Oh, 100%. Take full responsibility. I own that. Saying you take responsibility, saying you own something, does not equal taking responsibility and owning something. Saying that's not what happened. I didn't do what you just saw happen on camera. That didn't happen. But yeah, I take full responsibility. I own that. I don't know if you understand what taking responsibility means.
Because I would never think to do that to you. I mean, I would never think, oh, I just got engaged, but let me give one more try to somebody else.
I wasn't giving a try. It was part of my process. Again, this is an experiment. I didn't know what I was feeling.
Okay. Similar to Shane, when caught, I don't know what to call it. The verbal dancing comes into play of lots of words, and I commend Kyle for being calm and cool and just stating the facts and saying, I wouldn't have done that to you. After I proposed to you, I wouldn't have gone to another woman and said last chance with her. That just, essentially implying that's mean, that's hurtful that you did that. He's just, he's not freaking out. He's not screaming. He's not being inappropriate. He's just like, I wouldn't have done that to you. It's just, it hurts. It's kind of a masterclass in observing behavior. Now, of course, this is what the internet will call gaslighting. It's not technically gaslighting. It's slang gaslighting, I suppose. But to be more precise, and for all y'all out there, I challenge you, instead of saying gaslighting, describe the behavior in a longer sentence, in a longer phrase. Like, that person knows what they did was wrong, and they're actively denying it because they're ashamed. That's a much more accurate, and it's much clearer than the word gaslighting, and less offensive to those who have actually been gaslit. What Shaina looks like she's doing is she knows what she did was wrong, and she's either ashamed of it or feels entitled or something. Something is, she doesn't want to take responsibility for it, so she's trying to deny it. She's saying, you're wrong, what you saw didn't really happen, because she can't gaslight Kyle because she's not in an abusive relationship with Kyle. She doesn't have the opportunity to gaslight him over time. That's what gaslighting is. What she's doing is she's deceiving, okay? Because she's trying to get out of being seen as a bad person, which all of us have an impulse to do, but hopefully most of us know not to lie and know when to just take responsibility and bite the bullet. But anyway, let's rewind and see how she responds.
I would never think, oh, I just got engaged, but let me give one more try to somebody else.
I wasn't giving a try. It was part of my process. Again, this is an experiment. I didn't know what I was feeling.
It was an experiment. I didn't know what I was feeling. Okay, those are all true things. And you did what you did. And, again, as with Shane, you could totally just say, oh my God, yeah, this is really awful what I did. I was confused. And she says that. She says, I was confused, but she's saying, I didn't do that. I didn't do what you just saw in that clip. She could say, okay, because I'm guessing if she were to be honest and had the confidence to be honest and didn't have the either modeling of lying that I don't know where she gets this behavior from, but she gets it from somewhere, that she could say something like, yeah, looking back, it was a very weird psychological space that I was in. I don't know if y'all were in that too, but I was completely cut off from the outside world. I've never been in a situation like that. I was kind of missing my friends and my family. I didn't know what was happening. And I had tremendous feelings for Shane, I think, but I don't even really know. And then when I found out that he was with Natalie, I was like, oh no, did I just pass up on my soulmate? And I was panicking. And before that, and after that, totally was into you, Kyle. But I also just didn't know. Like, what if we meet in person and I don't like you? I didn't know. I was completely confused, and I didn't want to leave empty-handed, which is another kind of weird thing that I was going through. And so when you proposed, I was unsure, but I also didn't want to go home empty-handed. Plus, I didn't want to pass up on my soulmate because I didn't know. And then when you proposed, I was like, I guess I'll say yes. And I was sort of hoping it would work out. But then after I thought about it later, I was like, oh, but if Shane says yes, maybe I'd go back with, I don't know. I was just confused. I didn't know. It doesn't excuse what I did. What I did was wrong. And what you're saying I did is what I did. But I have to say, like, that pod situation was really messing with my head, and it doesn't excuse it, but I was so desperate to find the right person. I was confused. I didn't know what to do. I was, should I say yes? What if I say no and you're the one? Like, I don't know where, like, okay, if she said something like that, I think it wouldn't excuse what she did, but it would, I think, explain it. And I think we could relate to that. Instead, what she's saying is what you see didn't happen.
It was part of,
So the
I
odds
couldn't
are
move
better.
forward unless I was honest with Shane, which, again, I apologize to Natalie. I'm so sorry that I downplayed the situation to you. I wish I would have been more forthright. Again, being more forthright. I own that 100%.
There she says again. She said that a number of times in this season. I own that 100%. I do. I don't think you understand what that means. So she's saying, I had to be honest with Shane before I could move on. Okay, I mean, it's possible that was true. They didn't show the whole clip, so I do remember thinking, oh, she is asking if, didn't that happen? I'm pretty sure that happened, right? That Shaina was asking Shane to change his mind, right? Wasn't she doing that? If it's on the fence as to what she was doing, then maybe she's telling the truth, but I don't. I feel like I remember her being explicit about, hey, Shane, now's your last chance to be with me.
100%. When I said yes, I think I just felt very confused in the pod, okay? I felt a little manipulated by you bringing out your mother's engagement ring.
Yikes. Manipulated. Wow. When you just take in all of the data, wow. Now, the first part, I'm like, okay, I could see that happening, where it's like, I was confused. And then she says, when I said yes, I was like, okay, let's see what she says here. Because I think it's obvious she was at least on the fence, if not wanting to say no. But now she's blaming him. You manipulated me. Wow.
So I don't know.
How special you should have felt? I would be so honored. Like,
that's
wow,
why I couldn't go through with it, though, because I can't wear your mother's engagement ring. Like, I don't know. I just felt it was very...
That's ridiculous.
Wow. Now she's saying, I couldn't actually go through with marrying you because I can't wear your mom's engagement ring. What? It is a Shake's face. It's a common thing that people will do, that they will have family rings that they'll pass down to. We all understand that. Now, if Shaina had a problem with that, but still wanted to marry Kyle, obviously she would have just said that. Like, Kyle, I love you. I want to be with you for us. I can't wear your mom's ring for the following reasons. So could we just get a different ring in the mix here? Obviously, that's what she would have done if she were truly wanting to marry Kyle. So to blame Kyle, you manipulated me, it was the wrong ring, that's why I didn't marry you. It's all your fault. Yikes.
I own it, though. It's like, I'm not going to play victim in the situation.
And there we go again. I own it. I'm not going to play victim. You literally just claimed victim, that he manipulated you to say yes. And that you didn't marry him because he made the mistake of abusing you. I'm exaggerating. She didn't say that. With his mom's ring. But I take full responsibility, 100%. I don't think we've ever seen... at the beginning of the season, I was like, Trisha, interesting character, but Shaina is... I don't know what to say. Yikes.
Could have avoided a lot by just saying no, and I definitely should have just said no. But I was very confused. And again, I did have feelings for you. It wasn't like I did not care about you.
Okay, that last bit, I could see that being true. I was confused. I should have said no. I did have feelings for you. That all makes sense. That I could see. That I believe. That I'm quite sure is true. So good for her. She could have led with that. And, but it's similar to Shane in that when caught, the excuses start to kick in, and the phrases. I take full responsibility, 100%. I'm not playing the victim here. I take full, but you kind of manipulated me. So it's this defense. And then we have to wonder about people's relational traumas. When you are accused of something frequently throughout your life, unfairly, when you're young, you develop you have to develop some response, some defense against it. And one of the defenses is to deny, lie, deceive, make excuses, act like you're taking responsibility when you're not, because you're under constant assault of accusation and punishment. So when I see this kind of behavior from Shane and from Shaina, that's my first hypothesis that I explore with people, as to find their relational trauma so that we can heal those relational traumas so they don't feel compelled to deceive.
And I'm really sorry that it was let on more than it should have been. And I'm sorry.
Can we just say off the record that
He can't help himself.
the drive to continue on the show was a driving factor, I think. for
Not for me at
for,
all.
for
Why are you
Shaina
talking about
and Kyle?
Interesting. So this is an interesting reunion because I feel like with other shows, 90 Day Fiance, they edit it so severely, and I think they coach the people because they're kind of Kyle and Shake are commenting directly on the behind the scene kind of demands that the people are under. And other shows I think would have edited this, and I commend Netflix for because they could have easily cut this out. But what Shake is saying right now is, don't you think that part of the reason why this whole thing happened between the two of you is because you were trying to stay on the show, or you were pressured to keep the ball rolling? Do you think that might have been at least a factor? Which I've been hypothesizing. I didn't know, of course. There was no clear indication of that. But we can imagine that being true, that these are self-selected individuals who want to be on a reality TV show. If someone asked me to be on a show like this, I would say, hell no. No effing way. I know what happens to these people. It's almost never a good thing. You know, the bullying and the scrutiny and the, it's not good. Plus, there are other drastic ways of trying to find a soulmate, So, I would never do something like this. Now, so the individuals who are on, and a lot of people are like me, and for these individuals, they want to be on a reality TV show. And so when that moment comes of like, well, you better commit and get engaged or you're off the show. Not only are you off the show, but we're not even going to include any of your clips from the pods because there'd be no reason to include that. We're only going to follow those stories from the beginning because, right from the beginning that we were following Shane and Shaina and Natalie, all those other people, the majority of the people in the pods, aside from Trisha, who provided these kind of dramatic statements, and there were a couple other people who they would follow, but, they were really sidelined very quickly. And so Shake is bringing up, I think, a valid possible factor that would have pushed Shaina to say yes when she was more confused and on the fence. So he's bringing that up. I don't know if that's true for Shaina. I don't know if he's accusing Kyle of that, which who knows about Kyle, but it didn't seem like Kyle was in that boat. Shaina, certainly it's a possibility. But what's interesting is that Shake is possibly projecting right now that this was why he kept the ball rolling, that he wanted to be on the show. People have been emailing me drama that's been happening with Shake online. He is kind of leaning into the heel role, into the hated role, and kind of trolling people, but also kind of reveling in the negative attention. Any attention is good attention for some people. And so seemingly, I don't know, but it's possible that, so my point is that of all the people on the show, Shake seems to be the most comfortable with the aftermath online and the clout and the mixing it up with people. And he is possibly talking about himself in this moment where he's like, I stayed with Deepti even though right away I was like, yeah, I don't think this is going to work because I wanted to be on the show. So maybe he'll admit himself right now.
Maybe.
Sometimes it's okay to just keep your mouth shut.
If you say do not remember getting mic'd today either, there's no off the
always
record.
chime in. Why?
Off the record. Say whatever you want.
If we're talking about appearance, it would have looked way more better on my side if I said no
Totally.
right away.
If you had just said no, it would have saved so much trouble.
100%. So.
And that's true. That for Shaina, we don't know if it wasn't a factor. We don't know her motivation for saying yes. The way it looked to me, she looked genuinely distressed. She did not look like she was calculating something. Like those tears that she had when she was like, yes. It looked like she was going to a very deep hurt place of just like, she's like, I'm kind of overwhelmed. Like it looked real. It looked like she was in real distress. So I think it was touching on something, a pleasing response of like, just please, don't reject because then I'll get hurt or I'll be a bad girl. It kind of looked that way to me. It looked deep. And if she were really interested in stringing this out, she would have strung it out, like I think some of the other people on the show were doing, in that they were encouraged to make it to the end and make it to the wedding where she would have said no to him at the altar. But she didn't do that. She told Kyle no, which I do commend her for. I think there is pressure to stay in it and to go to, for her to tell Kyle behind the scenes and just be like, look, it's a no, but let's ride this out. Let's get a little bit more attention, and I'll say no on the altar, or you can say no on the altar. Like, I don't know about the other couples this season or last season, but I'm just going to take a guess and say that happened sometimes, and she didn't do that.
Shane, you seem horrified.
You all right, man?
I just can't believe the words that are coming out of his mouth right now, honestly. I can't.
Keeps it real.
No, that's not real, man. That's
real.
just bad. It's just so bad.
It's always
Shane was having an interesting reaction. I didn't point it out, but he had this really like, oh, we're in trouble, I think. And I don't know, but I think what Shane is reacting to is Shake is breaking the rules. Because we all understand this is a reality TV show. The producers they don't just sit back, right? I don't know about this show, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of attention and coaching to the cast members of, do not talk about the producers, don't talk about any pressure that we gave you, because it'll start to look like it was an engineered situation rather than a natural one. So here are the topics that you don't want to go into. I don't know, but I imagine at least that's part of it. And I think Shane was having a visceral reaction of, Shake, you're going to get us all in trouble. It kind of had that look to it, which lends itself to that, him wearing his heart on his sleeve, and also maybe Shane has some traumas about doing the wrong thing and getting in trouble. He gives off a vibe, Shane, of someone who got in trouble a lot as a kid and is really worried about displeasing other people. And I don't know that, but it kind of looks that way.
I'm a tell-all. I'm going to say what everyone's thinking at home.
Somebody say that.
I would have done myself a big favor if I would have
Do
said no.
not
Right.
put me into your words at all. Ever.
No, you stay out of this.
Okay?
Dude, I unfollowed you because you're so unbearable, and you think everybody thinks the same way as you.
In systems, in cellular systems, in governmental systems, in societal systems, in human systems, we all develop roles because systems have needs. And one of the needs in every system is that someone will tell the truth, that someone will push the system to acknowledge what's happening. Some of you were probably that role in your family of origin or in your family right now, where everyone is suppressed, no one's talking about something that is the elephant in the room, and you were elected and volunteered to be the person in the system that would call it out. Hey, look, there's an elephant in the room. Shake is kind of doing that. Now, the problem is that the system has, the reason why they're not talking about the elephant in the room is because there's fear and tension and consequence if you do call it out. But someone has to call it out because everyone wants it to be called out, either consciously or subconsciously. So, but in a well-working system, everyone will call it out. And there won't be rules suppressing the system such that secrets need to be held. But it kind of looks that way. And then when the person, and often the truth teller is the scapegoat, which Shake is, I think, volunteering for at this point.
I think we would all like it if I just shut up after this statement, right?
I think we'd all like if you just shut up in general.
No, please just stop now.
Listen, I'll be honest with you guys. This has been an incredible experience, but I've had a very tough time taking it seriously.
That's not our experience in this experiment. It's still an experiment, but we all had our own.
Okay, so Shake, I actually kind of appreciate Shake kind of breaking the fourth wall in a sense. I think he's kind of talking very honestly to the cameras, and I sometimes wish more people would do that. I mean, because it helps me as a viewer to kind of know what's going through people's minds at least. And so I think, so Shake, he doesn't speak for everyone, and he claims that he was, and so everyone's pushing back on that, which, they should do. It's like, hey, Shake, don't claim you're speaking for me because you're not, so shut up. But he's speaking from his, experience, and he's saying, I had a hard time taking this seriously. Okay, so what does that mean? I think what he is telling us is that at some point during the experiment, he stopped taking it seriously, which is a huge indictment on him, I think. Now, it's possible that behind the scenes, I think it was clear that behind the scenes, he and Deepti had a conversation about whether or not they were actually going to get married. And I think she was more like, well, I'm a yes if you're a yes, but if you're a maybe, then I'm a no. And they had that conversation, and then he was like, yeah, I think I'm a maybe even a no. And then she's like, okay, then I'm a no. And then on the altar, I'll say no so that we don't have to have it play out where I say yes and you say no, and I look like a fool and you look like a jerk. I'll just be the one to say no. That's my guess. I think there's a pretty good possibility that it was somewhere in that ballpark. So at some point that happened, and then at least from that point forward, you could imagine someone in Shake and Deepti's position being like, well, I'm not going to take this seriously anymore because we both know we're not going to get married. So, but we'll go through the motions of the wedding and all this stuff. But it's kind of like an act, but it's insincere. And just imagine that, just imagine like because I think for some of the people that do that, I think sometimes they probably will tell their parents, look, it's a no. Don't expect anything to happen. But I don't know if they tell everyone, I don't know if they tell, because I can imagine the producer saying, look, you can tell your parents, but don't tell everyone else because it'll ruin it. If we don't get a reaction from your friends, and your friends will recover, and you can tell them later, but don't tell them before the wedding because it'll just ruin the whole thing. Plus, maybe they won't even come anyway, like Mallory and Sal's parents, right? So anyway, what Shake is saying is, I had a hard time taking it seriously. So what does that mean? Maybe he'll go into detail, but does that mean that at a certain point so I could see a scenario where in the beginning, maybe he never took it seriously. I mean, that would explain why he was so flippant about his questions. I mean, he seemed like he was trolling from the beginning. I wonder, so here's an hypothesis that would really explain a lot of behaviors, is that when he was young, because he was ostracized and bullied maybe, he leaned into this role of the mischievous one because no one was paying attention to him. They already saw him as an outsider or something, and so he was going to play the mischievous role, and then that got him some positive attention. Some people thought, Shake is cool because he's mischievous. He'll do it. He'll talk back to the teacher, and he'll say what's true about what's going on, and that's his role. That's where he gets his self-esteem. We could totally imagine that, right? We could totally imagine a 16-year-old Shake being that student in class, going like, "Hey, we're just going to be honest here. This is a BS assignment. It means nothing." We could imagine Shake doing that. Who knows? I'm just completely hypothesizing and speculating. Then he develops this self-esteem around being the truth teller, around being the obnoxious one, and he's like, ooh, reality TV show. This will be great because I'll have this huge platform to be the mischievous one, and I'm going to be mischievous from the very beginning. It'll get me attention, I'll get on the show, and maybe I'll find someone to fall in love with, but who cares really, because this is just a great the spotlight will be on me yet again, and I'll get to screw with everyone, and I'll do all these different things, and then at the it would really explain a lot, right? All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.